We are
We are
live.
live. Welcome back to the Waterboy Sports Show. I'm one of the hosts, Frankie, and the other guy on the other end is Kyle. Today we're going to be talking about some basketball, mainly college and NBA. That's what we follow. We're going to go through pretty much a lot of the stuff going on right now in the current state of the NBA as well as the NCAA. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so it's early on in the college basketball season. There isn't too much to talk about. We're getting a lot of the usual suspects when it comes to teams that are good for the most part. We have Kansas number one ranked in the AP poll. They already had a big win against Kentucky, which is another team that's looking really good. So it's impressive that they got that win early on in the season with some very legit play from their usual army of five stars with John Calipari at the helm. And we also have Purdue that's coming in, ranked very highly on that poll. Zach Edey, and the rest of the squad. UConn, that's no surprise, and Houston, newly members of the Big 12 this year, also doing very well. And we also have some smaller schools like James Madison and Florida Atlantic, FAU, that are still performing this year. They had good runs last year, good seasons last year, and they're basically proving their chops again this year.
Yeah, so I think it's like you said, it's still pretty early on in the season. We're just getting started. We're just starting to get cooking. But early rankings coming out, we see that just made it in the cut is Mississippi State, and we also have Virginia, USC, JMU, which apparently they're good at sports, as we learned this year. Is that right? I mean, these dudes have been balling out football, which we'll talk about on Thursday on our third episode of the podcast. But they're good at basketball too, which is
Yeah,
pretty
maybe a little
shocking.
surprising.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we don't disrespect any JMU fans out there,
Yeah.
but
Any JMU fans, you're welcome to come on in to the
but
Waterboy Sports Show.
yeah, I mean, I was talking to a guy at work the other day who he went to JMU, and he's very happy with how his school's doing in uh in all the sports.
Yeah, man, I would be too. They're having a renaissance here. Any Texas fans? You got ranked number 15 right now in the polls, 4-1. You got Baylor and Texas A&M at 4-0. At least as the time of the recording, and then you got some SEC players at the top with Tennessee at 7. Yeah, and I think I this is a little off topic, but I kind of wouldn't be opposed to following some of what's going on in women's basketball. You got who's it, Caitlin Clark. She's just a baller. She's fun to watch, but I'm excited to see how the NCAA plays out this year. Like I said, still early on in the season, but still worth keeping an eye on what's going on.
Yeah, and something to actually note about all that with the women's basketball is that Angel Reese, the star over at LSU, she was recently, I guess, getting scrutiny, and I can't remember if she was suspended or not, but the speculation is that it's due to grades. But there was also a story that came out about her mom and another teammate's mom having some beef going
Ooh,
on.
juicy.
So maybe some locker room struggles going on there. But for I guess the first time in a long time since probably Brittany Griner played, women's basketball is like very mainstream and followed, like, widely regarded.
I can, man. We'd love to see it. Love to see it. I think that's pretty much it for the NCAA. Like I said, it'd be exciting to see how the season plays out. Being the good fans from Countdown City, from San Antonio, we got to talk about UTSA's team and how we're having a renaissance here and just playing absolute stellar basketball. Did I get that right, Kyle?
Quite the opposite, actually. I'm pretty sure most of the women's basketball teams could beat ours.
I think my high school team could probably beat our team. No disrespect to UTSA, but man, I want a good basketball season. It's frustrating. We just haven't had one yet. I've wanted to go to some games. I haven't been in a while, but
Yeah, I
It's one
mean,
of the things we're missing out on.
you'll be sitting in basically a high school stands. Like our gym is the convocation center is it's not great. And the coaching also not great. We've had the same coach Steve Henson for a while, since we were both in college. And you
You
know,
think it's time to move on?
I I think it's been time to move on. And the athletics department seems to have some sort of loyalty there, when they're also not even, maybe it's that they don't even want to invest any more too much money into basketball, because you know it's been time to move on to another coach, and I guess we don't really care about basketball as an institution.
Yeah, I guess so,
Right.
which is pretty unfortunate because now we're in the AAC, and it's time to start playing with some of the big boys, especially teams like Memphis. But yeah, it's frustrating. I think like you may be right that it's not like our athletics department is clearly, I mean, at least right now in the fall, they're going to be focusing on football.
Yeah,
Putting a
but
lot of money in that.
I mean, if there's one other sport that could increase or
Oh,
improve
it's
quality of
basketball,
life, it's
100%,
basketball. March
hundred
Madness
percent.
culture is insane at every other school.
Yeah,
Why not us?
yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, before we get any sadder about that, about just having an abysmal team, I think we should move on to the NBA.
Yeah,
Again,
definitely.
for any college basketball fans, we'll definitely be covering more, but there's just not a whole lot to talk about yet. Very early on in the season, there's a lot going on though in the NBA.
Yeah, we have the in-season tourney that's wrapping up group play this week, I believe. They play on Tuesdays and Fridays. The structure kind of goes, for those who don't know, the group play, all 30 teams, they were split up into groups of 5 based on their conference. And basically how it works is that if you go undefeated or top in your group, you're more than likely going to make the knockout rounds. And some teams that are in second place in their group also might make the knockout rounds, but they have to have a specific like they have to have better point differential than the rest of the teams also in the running. So games that you play in group play, whatever your win loss point differential is going to play a factor into that. Talking about some of the standings for the group play as we go into, I guess it's either our last or it's our penultimate night for group play. We have my Los Angeles Lakers at 3-0 facing the Jazz tonight, who are 2-1.
What is
So
LeBron like? 49 by now.
about that, and he's still going so strong. I mean, I watched the game against the Rockets the other night, stayed up until about 2 a.m. for that because Lakers games for some reason only start at 10 p.m. And he was unconscious. He was absolutely amazing, and I can't believe anybody's doing that at
49.
a ripe 38 years old. And we have in West Group B the Pelicans in 2-1 with a 14-point advantage in
Jeez,
differential above the Nuggets,
against the
which is
Nuggets.
also very surprising. West Group C, we have the Kings and the Wolves tied for first, both at 2-0.
Hmm.
Talking about the Eastern Conference, we have the Pacers at 2-0, and they are currently above the 76ers, who are 2-1. They've played one more game than them. We have the Bucks and the Heat in East Group B tied at 2-0. So we'll see how that shakes out. Both are also very good in the regular season writ large. East Group C, I mean, it's dominated by the Celtics. Great team this year, and we'll talk all about that more in depth soon. But the in-season tournament, also for those who don't know, there is a prize pool. And let me specifically look, because I know that uh, the winner of the in-season tournament,
Gets
not
two
only do they
dollars.
get the NBA Cup, but they get the 500,000 big total prize that is, probably about, you know, a few games for these guys, probably maybe a quarter of the season for most of these guys. And for LeBron, somebody like him, it's probably going to be like only a couple games. Um,
500K is 500K, man. What could you buy with that?
oh, a minimum contract.
A whole lot of V-Bucks. Yeah, that's true too. You love to see the Sacramento Kings doing well. I haven't seen the Kings. I don't think they've done well since Peja Stojakovic. And what was that, like 15, 20 years ago, at least?
The
That's
Kings are
pretty cool they're
rolling,
doing.
man. The
Yeah,
Kings
man.
are
Yeah.
rolling. They played, like I said, the Lakers are looking really good right now, but the Kings absolutely destroyed them the other night, decimated them. It's De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
He fastest man in the NBA. Swipa. He is averaging right now 29.6 points, 5.4 rebounds, and
Sheesh.
4.3 rebounds. Or sorry, 5.4 assists. His running mate, Domantas Sabonis, with near career highs as well, around 20 points, 12 and a half rebounds, 7.5 assists. And he's like quarterbacking this offense in a very Jokic-like fashion.
Mm.
They run that offense through him. It's not necessarily De'Aaron Fox all and everything, but Domantas Sabonis is standing there from a dribble handoff off the top of the key, and he will find his teammates who are all shooters around him. So it's not just De'Aaron, but he's also having a great season, and it's really interesting to see how we're going transitioning towards a lot more players who are these 7-footers who can really
Play like
do
a
all the
point
guard
guard.
skills.
Yeah, that's insane.
Um,
I know you explained the whole in-season tournament. I am a three-head smooth brain boy. I still don't understand it. It's like every Tuesday and Thursday or whatever. I don't even know. Do you think these players actually even like care about this in-season tournament?
It's funny you say that because in many interviews, like there's many been players who have their teams are doing well in group play. They've been caught out and asked about the in-season tournament. How does it feel to be getting wins in the in-season group play, this and that, in the effort of that NBA Cup? And they haven't really shown that they have hardly any knowledge about the in-season tournament. Um,
Yeah.
And it's weird for the teams that are on the outset who don't make the knockout rounds because they don't have games that are actually even scheduled for the part of the month of December yet. So when these other teams that are in the knockout rounds, in the elimination rounds, they're playing for that NBA Cup. These teams are kind of just waiting around, waiting for their games to be scheduled because they have to play like other regular season games that I guess matter almost as much, but not really.
I think the coolest thing to come out of this is, well, it's two things. Obviously, one, the jerseys, which I think Spurs have some drippy jerseys for this tournament. And two, the courts, which I think, in my opinion, the Mavericks have a nice looking court. Again, those are the coolest things to come out of it. Whenever a cool city edition jersey comes out, it's like, oh, we're not going to use it the following year. I've never understood that. I hope they continue with some of these jerseys and some of these courts. If you're a Memphis fan, I'm sorry. That's all I got to say. You got a barcode on your jersey. It looks like a straight up barcode. But for some of the other more fortunate teams, it's a pretty cool, nice little change.
No, I mean some of them, but in general, I feel like it's like, obviously the NBA kind of copy pasted this idea off of like other sports like soccer that have,
Yeah.
in season cups and, they
Yeah.
have these various different cups and everything that, they actually matter. They have big prize pools, they have big trophies, and they have prestige associated with that economy. But they don't change the fields for soccer. Like they don't suddenly start playing on a purple field just because it's the
That'd be pretty cool.
FA Cup or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think we'll
so
probably, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I think we'll probably be talking more about this maybe come midway through the season about the whole All-Star game and just trying to get people, I guess, more interested. I know Adam Silver's talked about it at lengths about like how do you get people in the players even more interested earlier in the season, halfway through the season, cool things like the All-Star weekend, because they just don't really care about it. And
no,
like I
yeah.
said, maybe that's a talk for another day, but one thing I
Oh,
have been keeping my eye on is like the whole thing going on with the Olympics. Again, we could talk about that another day, but
yeah.
um,
I mean, I have
it's a
a
good
slew
effort.
of like wacky ideas about like what they could do with All-Star Weekend. You know,
Entertain us. The
there's so
people want
much
to hear.
more they could do, but they just don't. I'm not sure why,
What's
but
one of your wacky ideas?
a 1v1 tournament. That seems
That
like the most logical idea, right? Like
yeah. Could you imagine a 1v1 of like Wimby and Chet?
that would be insane.
The winner owns the other person's city.
Or even like if I could see LeBron and Giannis go at each other, you know, for
Yeah,
just a match
man.
in a as part of a bigger like 1v1 tournament, that would be what everybody would watch. Everybody would watch that.
Yeah, I agree. Or even a 3v3, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want the vibes that I had, walking into the rec, in college. Let's get some pickup games going on, but I want to see it with the best athletes in the world. Not that I'm saying the best athletes aren't in the world aren't in college recs, but I want to see it like you say with LeBron and KD, Wimby, Chet.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Put this man Kyle in the office.
yeah. Just wrapping up that talk about the in-season tournament, like if you had to pick one team from the West and one team from the East, currently doing well in the standings, who are you selecting to make it all the way to that NBA Cup match?
Mm. Well, obviously, I think in the East, I'll say mine for the West. Sorry, I'm gonna go with the Lakers. I think they're gonna win it. For the East, what do you think?
I like the Celtics. I
Yeah,
do. Um, I think that the Bucks this year, they are good. They have Dame now, Dame time over there in
yeah,
Milwaukee now, and I don't think defensively they match up as well against a team like the Celtics with Drew Holiday in the backcourt now. They have, one of the best defensive backcourts maybe that we've ever seen with Derek White and Drew Holiday. Um, and then, of course, they have the Jays, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, just doing all the scoring. Kristaps Porzingis rounding out that lineup.
the unicorn, is he back? Is he all
He's
the way
he's
back?
he's back. He's back. He's
That's
been
good to
playing
see.
extremely well, having one of the best seasons he's had since he's been on the Knicks.
That's good.
So,
You love to see it. Speaking of which, teams in the East, are the Bucks the real deal, or are they just pretenders?
you know, to me, like I said, they have things that they need to work out defensively. Like Damian Lillard can't guard anything. He couldn't guard a tissue. Um, but at the end of the day, they also have steps taken back. Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez have taken steps back, and they sacrifice a lot of depth this year. They've got a few, core bench pieces that they hold to give a lot of minutes or stand to give a lot of minutes to, and I don't think that they will be a championship contender at the end of the day. By the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost in the second round.
That, yeah. Well, okay. I don't know if they're personally. I don't know if they're gonna lose in the second round. I think any team that has Giannis on it is always a contender potentially. But yeah, I would have to agree. And speaking of which, just staying in the East, is Chicago Bulls trade rumors. Is everybody up for auction? We're talking Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, the
Yeah,
bald eagle himself, Alex Caruso.
yeah. Well, Zach LaVine all but requested a trade. He wants out of Chicago pretty much. He has certain teams on his short list that he wants to go to. One of them being the Lakers. I don't agree with that. Um, and then he also has um, let me pull it up real quick. He would also prefer to go to the Miami Heat and the Sixers, all contending teams. He wants to win. He's done a lot of time in Chicago not winning, and
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, Zach LaVine, he's a scorer, he's a bucket, but he's not a defender.
Hmm.
He I don't think he's a winner. I don't think he'll make it down the stretch. As one of the top two guys on a championship team. So he has to go
Yeah.
to a team that's already set up. And I don't think that most teams in the East or in either conference, to be honest, are willing to sacrifice depth that they have, key pieces to just get this guy. Maybe the Sixers, looking for a third star to surround Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid,
Hmm.
but that's a big maybe. It depends on the package, but I don't know if you've looked at the site Fanspo ever,
Mm,
but they
no.
have, the NBA trade machine, and a lot of community posted trade packages, trade deals that fans want to see go down, and pretty much either four of the top five or all five of the top five are all Chicago Bulls players.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen
DeMar,
that.
former Spur, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he is the mid-range king. I could see him maybe making his way over to LA or something like that. All these guys are linked to LA. Um,
They're
those are
rolling, man.
the Lakers are rolling,
Unfortunately,
and that's just a team that everybody would want to go to win. I mean, that's the culture. They have LeBron. With LeBron, you can accomplish anything uh, until he's probably 50. So
that's 1 year away, man. He's getting there.
yeah, yeah. So we'll
So
see.
you said something pretty interesting that I thought like Zach LaVine is a bucket, but I mean, I'm sure I know a lot of teams want him, obviously, but apart from being a bucket, there's not much like he hasn't been really on a winning. You don't associate Zach LaVine with like winning a championship, right? You
Yeah,
associate him
exactly.
with obviously, like you said, a bucket. You think teams now are focusing their shift to like actually winning? And the reason, I guess, the example I have right now, obviously, is a glaring one with the Clippers and Harden.
Yeah,
You saw Harden, another bucket, another big stats guy, get traded to what was rolling Clippers, and they started 0-5 with Harden. You
yeah,
think teams are focusing more on like winning now as opposed to building these like super teams with just a bunch of guys who can score?
yeah. I think we're seeing a transition. Like after the Nuggets won their championship, they have Yoke, of course. I mean, like best player in the world right now, but I guess you could consider Jamal Murray a second star, but he's not. He's there's it's a question about whether or not he's a superstar. But surrounding them, they have all these guys who are switchable. They can switch everything. They can defend. They can shoot, and they can really support all the stars. So after them being so dominant and winning that in that championship run, I feel like we're seeing a lot of teams look more for not just depth, but guys who are highly adaptable. Like we see this Los Angeles Lakers team right now. We have guys like Cameron Reddish, and these guys might not even necessarily be, considered winners, but a lot of them are these, kind of taller, lengthy wings who can defend and have the potential to shoot threes. And
Mm,
so that's what you really want on defense. You want to be able to switch everything. You don't want to be caught out, and you want to be able to have a lot of versatility there
mm,
surrounding your core stars. So I think a lot of teams, sans like teams like the Bucks who have their superstar duo, not much around it. You know, we have a lot of teams that are looking to follow a similar recipe that the Nuggets kind of want to do because they're the team to beat. So you have to make a team that is able to beat them and not just stars that are rough around the edges.
yeah. Do you think Harden cares about winning? I just looked it up. He's 34 now, getting up
Yeah,
there. That you think he wants a chip before he leaves, or is he just padding the stats?
it's hard to say. He's been like very, you could even maybe say that he's on something because like he's been very weird in the media since the off season. And
Mm,
not all of that is unwarranted, but I feel like Harden at this point, obviously he went to the Clippers for a reason. He wants to have the chance to win a championship, but that's dependent on a variety of factors. Are Kawhi and Paul George going to make it all the way through the playoffs and not just be quote unquote injured after the first
mm.
round? Are they gonna
Oh,
are we
I
gonna get a
know.
healthy Kawhi?
As a Spurs fan, I can tell you the answer to that is probably not. Been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, shed the tears. No, it's gonna
Yeah,
be something with his hammy or his quad. There's gonna be
yeah,
something.
yeah. And it's not all doom and gloom for the Clippers right now. Like they've won their last two games, albeit it was against the Rockets on like basically a last second shot, and then
Mm,
it was against the Spurs, who aside from Wemby, are very down bad.
yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of things that go into this. Westbrook volunteered to come off the bench recently. He made that decision based on he wants not just two guys who want the ball to be like the lead ball handler, but
Yeah.
he wants. I guess he just wanted to take a step back. I'm not sure why he took it upon himself to be the one to do that, but
I think he's maturing. You think he's maturing a little bit? I kind of think so.
I think so.
Maybe he's wanting to win. He's getting older too,
You know,
Um,
after his time with
35.
the Los Angeles Lakers, I feel like he really it was kind of a wake up call that he needed to have a sort of a resurgence,
Mm.
and so I feel like he's really maybe he's kind of realizing that if we want to win this thing, which I want to do, that I gotta take it upon myself to be the bigger guy out of all of this.
His knees are starting to hurt. Time's ticking. It doesn't slow down, and he probably just wants to win at this point. Staying on the Clippers, what do you think is still missing?
You know, it's hard to say, but the glaring issue is big man depth. They recently signed Daniel Tice to replace the backup minutes from Mason Plumlee getting injured. But the problem is I was doubling back to what I said before. Most of the teams that are real contenders out there are seen as real contenders by the media. Uh, are They built their teams around beating the Nuggets, and the problem is big guy in the center for the Nuggets at the 5. The Clippers have no answer for that. Ivica Zubac can't play 48 minutes. Um, and Daniel Tice isn't doing anything to stop him either. So that's the main thing. They might have to shop the buyout market with whatever cap they have left, or make a move or something, because they sacrificed depth to get Harden. And not only do they need depth to go up against the Nuggets, who are a very well built team, but they need the big men uh, out there
Yeah.
to counteract Jokic, to defend Jokic, or at least put up a fight.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, like you said, it's not all doom and gloom. They're on the come up, potentially winning the last couple games with Harden now. Some teams that are hitting their stride early on. Wolves, again, the Kings, which brings back memories again to that man, Peja Stojakovic. The Thunder, we can get into that with Chet. Sixers, Magic, Pacers, probably the Rockets too, potentially.
Yeah, a little bit, definitely.
But with the Wolves, man, Anthony Edwards, is he going God mode right now or what?
He absolutely is. He's next up, man. He's
Yeah,
he is very
got
soon
that
going to
dog in him,
be
so to speak.
top 3 player in the league. I feel, or not top 3, top
Mm,
5. He's got that killer instinct, and I don't know if you saw um, the Adam Sandler movie Hustle.
oh yeah.
Um, he portrayed in that movie a very like trash talking, like kind of just very confident,
Mm,
egotistical type of player who's just him, but he is him. That's I
he is
heard
him.
the way he is in real life, his demeanor, maybe not as mean, but isn't far off from what it was like in the movie. And he's averaging 25.8 points right now, 5.1 assists, 5.9 rebounds, and that's surrounded by guys who are like Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, who they have two big men out front. You know, they're not even necessarily feeding or playing through those guys. Like, they're not feeding the ball in the post as their first look. Their first look is Anthony Edwards, take the ball, go get a bucket.
Yeah, I think also, I guess it's I think with the Kings, like we were going through some teams hitting their strides early on. Obviously, the Wolves, you explained that pretty well. I think the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, he won back to back, or he won the Clutch Player of the Year last year. I mean, back to back
Yeah,
in a case.
he could definitely go back to back, averaging 29 and a half. Will round up to
Jeez.
30. 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.8 steals. 1.8 steals, very important there. This guy is playing on both sides of the ball, and even though he's not, his size isn't necessarily the best. Like at 6'3", he's really getting in those passing lanes a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and so the Kings are great in both transition and because they have Sabonis quarterbacking that offense, they're very good in the half court as well on offense. Um, and I just saw, you know, you know, a every single year one of the best defensive players in the league, Anthony Davis. De'Aaron Fox wasn't scared to go at him in clutch time, uh, in on numerous occasions, and just showing, attacking the rim, drawing a foul, putting up floater against that extremely lengthy defender. He wasn't scared of anything. He was fearless, and he was able to get buckets over one of the best defenders we've seen in a generation.
So this is where things start to get controversial here. I'm going to bring up the Thunder on a 5-game win streak. Obviously, the common factor here, Chet Holmgren. Is he the best 7+ footer in the league right now? He's balling. So is OKC.
He's balling. I don't think he's there yet to be considered that. Obviously, we've got Jokic out there, but he is the right supporting piece that they need. And this Thunder team, of course, we have Jalen Williams, who he was the rookie of the year guy. He was actually the runner up for the rookie of the year. Excuse me. He is hitting a second year progression. He's averaging higher than last year, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course, he's scoring 30 points a game, doing pretty much everything for that offense. But they didn't have the center play last year, and they were considered, a great young team that was, looking to compete within the next few years. It's looking to be sooner than that at this point, because they have Chet out there, who is in his technically rookie year, putting up numbers and not even really having a lot of the struggles. Of course, he still makes mistakes, but he's not having as many struggles as we normally see out of most rookies, and so he's fairly consistent. Of course, he's more on the side of like not being really a superstar, but he's a really great supporting piece that they didn't get from the other Jalen Williams, the center Jalen Williams, 2 of them on the team last year. He's really more of a franchise cornerstone centerpiece that they could really all grow together, because they're all very young and they're in their first within 5 years of the league, the whole pretty much starting lineup aside from Lou Dort. And so they are all going to grow together. They're all going to progress together and develop, and they're going to be competing for a long time within the next few years, I feel like.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they've got like draft picks until people who are like still in middle school right now. So,
oh man, that's crazy to think. And another guy, the man from down under, Josh Giddey, he's a good guy to have on your team. Had a rough game against Portland, 6 points, 50% shooting. But yeah, I mean, OKC's good. I'm biased to Wemby, but it's fun to see them. It was fun to see them go at it. I think Chet almost has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because of all this talk around Wemby. Personally,
yeah. I mean, and right after this, I'll let you talk about Wemby. A little dedicated time for you to talk about
the
him.
Wemby watch,
because that's your favorite guy right now. But it's really interesting how we're seeing 2 guys in the same rookie. Well, they weren't drafted at the same time, but they're technically same rookie class, 7 foot whatever plus, and lengthy. They have skills like guards, and they are very promising young stars.
They are.
Are we and it seems like every year now we have some Euro guy that comes out of the woodwork who's
Yeah, some
6'10
transformer.
plus,
Yeah. Hey,
and
like Giannis said, man, I think it was Giannis. He said that's like what every NBA player is going to look like, I think, in the next 15 years or whatever. I
yeah,
think that's probably true. There's something in the water.
yeah, we have at
And
least 2 or 3 of them next year coming in, and, you know, uh, first of all, my question is, where are these guys coming from? Like,
from somewhere deep inside the Earth's core. I
what
don't know,
lab
man.
are they being made in? You
Yeah.
know? And then also, like, what is that even like? What do you think that's even gonna be like 10
I
years from now in the
I don't
NBA?
know, but I think Jokic was probably the first prototype specimen. He didn't come out quite with the same athletic look that Wimby did, but man, that dude can ball. And like I think all these huge guys are, like you said, they're just going to keep coming out from wherever they're coming out from. But I think let's not forget why this is Chet's rookie quote unquote year. Do you remember how he got injured
Uh,
last year? I mean, the man was out for an entire season,
yeah.
contactless, which obviously you don't like to see. Those are sometimes the worst ones. But the man was like running away from LeBron James. He was just LeBron James was just chasing him down the court, basically. Do you think a lot of these taller guys are going to be just way more prone to injury? You think they're just going to kind of come into the league and leave? Or do you think that like sports medicine and the way these guys are just kind of playing longer and longer and longer um, will help these guys longevity to maybe have, 20 plus year careers?
Well, I think that's kind of a thing that people feel like by now and in the future, I'm sure like long-term future, it's going to be different. But I think most teams think that we'll draft this guy, we'll worry about within the first 2 years about him putting weight on, because I think that was really important part of why it's actually cool that Chet is in his second year,
Mm-hmm.
technically, but he's still a rookie since he sat out his first season, because I believe he put on about like 15 pounds of weight over the off season. Um, and even though he still looks like, basically
115,
like if you
soaking
stretched
wet.
me out
I think
and
you
like
probably weigh
put me
more
out
than
on
he
the
does.
court, probably, but like, even though he looks that way, he's working on it. Because I think everybody knows that with those types of guys, one injury can ruin everything. So
Yeah. Now, this is a good segue into. Well, before we get there, before we get to the Wimby watch, I do want to talk about. I think we may be possibly selling the Rockets a little bit short. They could be an honorable mention here for teams hitting their strides early, or maybe just doing a little bit better. Um, they've looked pretty good. I guess as of now, they've lost their past couple of games, but they look pretty good. They
yeah,
don't look too bad.
Alperen Şengün is heading up that effort. I guess everybody thought at first it would be Jalen Green, who was
Yeah.
the real star out there. And, he's still like, developing really well. Like, there's still questions about him, but they have a great young core, and Alperen Şengün is the head of that. He is Jokic light, if you want to put it that way. He's just like this 7-foot Euro dude who can, has the vision of like a quarterback out there. And he's really just going in there and um, attacking your best defender every night. But even if he doesn't get the look that he wants for a shot, he's going to find somebody else who has a great look. And they run the offense through him for the most part. He was in foul trouble against the Lakers when I was watching, and at first, like to start out the first 3 quarters, he's in foul trouble. Um, and that was a real blow to the Rockets, and the Lakers kind of like uh, beating them there, a
Mm-hmm.
real crux of it, because the time he had to sit out, they had, I mean, Jeff Green off the bench stepped up a little bit, but it wasn't the same without him out there kind of really quarterbacking everything with his vision that he has. And once he got back in, it got really scary for the Lakers, because they had to account for him, as like they had to game plan specifically against him.
Mm-hmm. Another couple key guys, obviously, they have Dylan Brooks too and Jabari Smith. And then they're waiting for, their number one draft pick to, I guess, to get healthy again. But I
Yeah.
think they're going to be a strong team as the season progresses, and maybe even next year.
Yeah, I think they have a great future ahead of them. They're 6-6 right now in the season, which isn't
Yeah,
isn't bad. 500 is, in the, especially in the way that the West is competitive right now. It's not bad at all. Nothing to scoff over.
it's not
Um,
bad, but it's bad if you still need more key pieces. They're not going to get a good draft pick this year because they're going to be in that middle tier where they're just good enough to have a good enough record, but just bad enough to possibly get knocked out of the play-in tournament. Possibly,
I mean,
that's always a
something
precarious area.
to think about though is that they had a little shopping spree over the offseason, getting Dylan Brooks,
Mhm.
like you said, Fred
Yep.
VanVleet, those types of vets. Those are tradable contracts in the future. If they
Yeah.
want to, if they get a middle tier pick, maybe they use those pieces to move up in the draft, get a guy they really want. But who knows? I guess those were just vets that are helping out the young guys really develop at this point. And I feel like for them the future is bright, especially even just with the four core young pieces that they have. They have also Cam Whitmore sitting in the G League,
Hmm.
who was a guy who was going to go in the top 3 of the draft or the top 4 and fell all the way to 20 something for them.
Yeah.
One other team that I want to talk about lastly, as we wrap out these like teams that are kind of on the rise, a lot of people are high on the Indiana Pacers right now, the current 6th seed in the East. They have a deep team, very deep team. They run a pretty wide rotation, I feel like, and it's led by this this guy out there as a point guard. Their point guard Tyrese Halliburton, who got traded to there from the Kings a couple seasons ago, and they're running a kind of pseudo version of the 7 seconds or less type offense that Steve Nash was running out with the Suns. Um, I've been watching some of their games, and it's not the same. This is just my take on it for all you viewers. To me, I know Tyrese has a very bright future ahead, considering he's very young, and he's playing very well. Um, and he gets probably I think he averages over 10 assists a night, which is great. But the way I'm seeing it, especially how they play, getting out on transition, um, Tyrese will kind of play some lackadaisical defense for the most part. I guess not many people want their offenses to attack him. The other team will shoot the ball. He'll just wait. He won't even go for the rebound. He doesn't have the fight in him to kind of go crash the boards. He waits for his team to crash the boards. He sits next to the rim with his hands up, just like pass
I
me the
love
ball,
that,
pass me
don't
the
you?
ball. And, then he takes the ball up, and within 7 seconds or less, like I said, he'll just pass to pass.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not the type of killer instinct you want to see in a star that is the number one option on your team, because the number one option isn't even looking to be the number one option. He's passing just to pass. It might be a three by Buddy Hield, or it might be a cut to the rim for Miles Turner, a pick and pop. But they'll get that ball off fast, and they'll put it up within 7 seconds elapsed on the shot clock, and it might not even be, even though it might be analytically a good look, it might not even be like the right play if you really actually run an offense. I feel like it's kind of a pseudo fake version of the 7 seconds or
Yeah.
less. So that's just my take on it.
Man, so I guess going now, flipping the script a little bit. Warriors Dynasty, man. At if whatever you want to call it, the winning Warriors. That's kind of over now, isn't it? Starting off the season 7 and 8, they did just get a win over the Rockets. The whole Draymond Green thing getting suspended, that's unfortunate, but it seems pretty on brand, honestly. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
um, they have not looked great. Steph is still carrying. Steph is just carrying right now, and Klay Thompson has been pretty quiet. Looks like he only has one 20-point game in the last 5. Chris Paul has career lows in points and assists. They're 10th in the Western Conference right now. Is this kind of the beginning of the end for them, or should we ever count out this caliber team?
A couple things I'll say about that. I feel like Draymond Green for a long time has been just, you don't have any business acting like that in the NBA on the court. I'm sure it's not I'm sure he's not a bad person, but there's been many times last season in the playoffs, almost, really intentionally injured Sabonis by just stomping on him.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you talk about this chokehold on Rudy Gobert. Of course, it gets chippy out there. It's sports, you know. But to escalate it to that point is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I'll say about Draymond Green. And I don't think that even though his stats aren't his counting stats aren't where even though it was relatively low at his peak, his counting stats have just been on the decline or kind of just
Mhm.
in a lull period of mediocre, even though he provides a lot defensively out there for them and like really is the life and blood of that whole team. um and then the other guys, outside of Steph Curry, there's not really anybody. I don't know what they thought they were doing, like in the off season, because
Mm.
the glaring
Yeah.
issue with them has always been we need better wings and we need or wing depth, and then we need a big man who can be, kind of a third star, surrounding Clay and Steph and maybe Draymond Green, because Draymond Green's counting stats aren't there, like I said. So they needed kind of a third guy like that who could really step up as a big. There were bigs out on the market, people who were looking to be traded, people who might have been on the market, in the free agent market, but they went out and got Chris Paul.
Mhm.
They didn't need any more guards.
No, no. Man, that
And
was when I saw that, that was questionable. And
And like it or not, I think even though he hasn't been playing well as of late, I think they missed Jordan Poole. He was another 20 point per game scorer from them. They traded him over to the Wizards.
yeah.
He was a guy who could score outside of Steph, like him or not.
Mhm.
And they need scoring. They just need someone who can get it done. So Steph, even though he is like scoring like these 30, 40 point games, like
Mhm.
Steph doing Steph things, they needed a guy who can also be at least a sustainably serviceable second scorer, and Clay's just not that anymore,
No, he's not.
which is their problem.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the Splash Brothers. And Chris Paul, now he's 38. Like I said, low points, 9.8 points per game this season, averaging 3.9 rebounds, 7.7 assists, under 40% shooting. That's just not I don't think what they were wanting. I don't know. It almost felt like a formality or
Yeah,
hey, we're not just gonna kick you to the curb. You're Chris Paul's a legend, but it did
yeah.
not help their case at all.
And I guess well, first of all, what Chris Paul was probably thinking was, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start next to Steph and Clay, like
Hmm.
two 6'3"
Yeah.
guys below in the backcourt, and Clay, who is a decent perimeter
Just gonna
defender,
carry.
but
Yeah.
like that's not that. First of all, that wasn't a good plan to begin with. But he's not even starting; he's coming off the bench.
Hmm.
And I guess the Warriors' thought on this is we're going to get whatever juice we can left out of Chris Paul and really have a guy off the bench who
Yeah.
can lead the unit.
Yeah.
And even though he's probably still a floor general mind, like type mind, the execution just isn't there this year, and it's on
Yeah.
the decline. I guess it's safe to say from this point.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of floor generals, I'm going to go out and say this. Wemby, man. I say this as a Spurs fan, big Spurs fan. Um, it's time to just nuke the team, honestly. Wemby needs help. I think everybody who's not named Wemby, Devin Vassell, or Bassie, it's time to regroup. Those guys are not going to get it done. Speaking of Wemby, though, I saw a headline this week. Did you see this, Kyle? That his debut jersey sold for $762,000.
Yeah, 6x its initial estimate. Absolutely insane. And I'm
That's
sure,
insane.
I wouldn't be surprised in the future if, that stock price goes up.
I would imagine. I think he's only going to get better. Um, what's shocking to me is, do these guys not get to keep like their jerseys? Like what
I
was the
don't know.
conversation there?
I,
Hey, you can't keep your debut jersey.
I don't know if who was able to get a hold of that or how, but whoever did kind of hit the gold mine.
Yeah, he did.
I guess he spent a lot of money, but my assumption is that he had a lot of money to spend anyway. So
Hey man, I would have taken out a loan and bought that jersey myself. I'm sure somebody ran in Tom Brady style and stole the jersey and auctioned it off. I really don't understand how that works. That seems like something Wemby should keep, but whatever.
one question I have for you about Wemby is that, you know, given the discussion we had earlier about 7-footers with guard skills being the norm
Mhm.
in the transition in this NBA, um, you know, is there room there for Wemby to even like be this type of guy that's basically the second coming of a LeBron or Jordan? And before you answer, is that even what you're expecting?
That's a good question. As a Spurs fan, I don't know what to expect anymore. It's like they keep trying to make Sohan a point guard. I don't know where that came from or whose idea that was, but I have never seen somebody turn the ball over so many times trying to be a point guard. Like he's not a point guard. That's one thing. Two, Keldon Johnson is an. I don't know if I've ever seen him pass the ball to Wimby. I don't know if there's like. I'm just saying this just to say. I don't know if there's any kind of like jealousy or what that this guy just walked in. It's like the French phenom, right? But if you watch some of their games, it's like KJ would rather drive to the hole, lose the ball, than to pass it to a wide open Victor Wembanyama at the 3-point line. I don't know what the plan is, but I don't see Sohan staying at point guard. I hope he doesn't. That's not his role. I think he would be great at the 4 or the 5 to
Like a
help Wemby.
Dennis Rodman type of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but when you have Wemby on the floor, he makes it so hard to shoot the ball in the paint. On offense, like the guy can do anything. He can go coast to coast. He can dribble the ball. He could play the point if he wanted to. He can shoot threes. He can step back. He can catch any ball. You could throw it up to the top of the arena and he's gonna dunk it. He's gonna get the alley oop. Um, like I said, I think the plan going forward, Devin Vassell is shooting lights out. He's great. Having some finicky injuries lately, but him and Wimby, and I'll say I like Bassey too. Other than that, man, they need help
Well,
somehow.
I think the answer is, you need a point guard, and there's a lot of good ones
Yeah,
coming up in this draft. So
there are, and the Spurs have tons of draft picks coming up. Um, I somehow, some way, we drafted Victor Wembanyama and somehow got worse. We started the season way worse than we did last season. I think we were like 6-9 last year. I think we're sitting at 3-11 now. We have 5 straight losses coming from the Clippers, Memphis, Sacramento, OKC, and Miami.
I guess
And 2 of those were 3 of them were blowouts.
Matt Millman in the chat here says that Wemby needs to be in the paint more. He's shooting too many mid-range jumpers and not at a great clip.
I would agree.
That definitely agree with that. I feel like there's more to it. Like there's more to basketball than meets the eye when I see that, if there's no real identity in running the offense, like through
Yeah,
a designated point guard, that's going to be hard to get the looks
right.
that you want at the end of the day.
We haven't had a presence like a Tony Parker or Patty Mills since Patty Mills left. And I think Wemby can be a floor general. I think he already is to a certain extent right now, as much as he can be at 19 and 14 or whatever games in the season. But yeah, like we don't have an identity. It's like this is like the complete opposite of Spurs basketball. Like this is a team that invented like the beautiful game in 2014, and now you see them just running down the court and taking the word like the hardest shots. And I think Charles Barkley said it best. It's like this is such an inconsistent team because they take bad shots. Like there's some games they're gonna ball out and score 140 or whatever, but that's not consistent taking these kinds of shots. They really need an offense, a point guard, I think, like you said, to run the offense through. So hopefully with one of these upcoming draft picks, we get somebody to help out Wemby. I don't think anybody outside of Bassey and Vassell and Wemby have safe jobs. I think they're all potentially tradable, and most of them probably will be after this season. I don't see Wemby wanting to
I was
rebuild.
about to ask you about who you think was going to stay and who's not. interesting, controversial about, whether or not Keldon Johnson would, because, Pop is kind of a Keldon Johnson dick rider in a sense. Like he
Yeah,
got that kid
Olympic
on the
team.
Olympic team when he was coming in, after just finishing his rookie season. That's like,
I
why?
didn't, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that he was supposed to be an ambassador for San Antonio and try to get D-Book or somebody to come to the Spurs, but that didn't make sense to me. It was a great experience for him, but it really hasn't panned out.
It
The
looked
other
like he
thing
would
that
be promising, but,
he
like,
did,
I guess he's kind of plateaued a little bit at that kind of
yeah,
18 type point per game scorer, you
yeah.
know.
He's
Yeah.
just not very. He hasn't been consistent. I still think there's hope for him. I had a lot of hope in KJ. I think he can. I think he can rise to an elite level, but we just haven't seen it. It hasn't played out.
Yeah. Matt Millman also says if Keldon comes off the bench, he can stay. That would definitely be ideal. Shouldn't start at all. I agree. I think that, but the problem is with that, the economy of the NBA these days, he's going to get paid somewhere for his skill
Yeah,
set.
he's a lot of value we could trade to another team. I agree. We could get quite a bit, I think, out of by trading KJ. The other thing that upset me, and I'll leave it at this, is that throughout the summer, like Sohan did not play any summer league. Like you never saw him trying to get better. Really, it was
Yeah.
like he assumed that he was like the star of the team.
Maybe he's got a
But
little Dennis Rodman in his personality too.
I'm okay with that. If he gets 25 rebounds a game, hey, color your hair, do whatever you want, man. Get a nose ring, fine with me. But I don't see him playing point guard much longer. I hope he doesn't.
And playing
Could
on
be
a
a
team
rebuild
like the
year too.
Spurs, like you'd expect that they'd want their young guys to go out there and really get better over the offseason, show that
Yeah,
work ethic.
exactly. Yeah,
But, a little bit, I guess, of a departure from Spurs culture this year.
it very much so. Like I said, inventors of the beautiful game. The ball always travels faster than somebody running after it. Just now there's just no passing. But it's not like we said earlier in the show, especially for the Spurs, it's not all doom and gloom. We have tons of draft picks coming up, a lot of talent coming out of college. So I'm excited to see how it pans out. Looking forward to another playoff championship contending Spurs team. I just don't think it's going to be this year.
Yeah.
Even it going back to when we had David Robinson, we we still weren't winning many games. He was out for a season-ending injury, and that's how we got Tim Duncan. So
Yeah.
maybe it's going to take another first or second pick in a draft.
Yeah. And
Uh,
maybe, I mean, for your sake, I hope y'all don't fail to build around Mr. Croissant
yeah,
himself. But,
Mr. Poisson. Yeah.
okay. I guess that wraps up our basketball talk. Just to end off the show, what are you doing for
Mhm.
Thanksgiving?
Oh man, I just heard an interview from Jeff Traylor, our Lord and Savior, the man himself. The dude says he puts ketchup on green bean casserole if it's crunchy. I don't know about that. I will not be doing that. But
Why
you
is
better
it crunchy?
believe I don't know, man. But you better believe I will be loading up my plate with everything um that's not there's not too much I don't like with Thanksgiving. Give me the cranberry sauce, give me the turkey, give me the mashed potatoes, give me the gravy. I'm not picky. I will say I agree with the man though. He said he just puts it all in a big pile, big mess on his plate, and I am in that same camp. I'll do that, and man, I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, other than stuff on my face and watching some football, not much. What are you doing?
Well, I'm gonna be, I think, going to my uncle's place. We're also gonna, of course, be watching the Thanksgiving Day parade. Not
Classic.
in
Oh,
person.
in person.
No,
No,
not in
man, you
person.
got to go in person. You live in New York. You
But
got to go in person.
I
Make the
mean,
trek one time. Say you did it.
maybe we'll see. But the problem is, like, we didn't want to miss the dog show on right after,
Oh
so
my
we
gosh.
got to be able to watch that on TV.
Of
Might see
course.
a movie too, just a bunch of little, since both my significant other and I are both off that day. Just both of us being able to do some fun but chill things on our day off. That would be ideal.
Sounds great. Hopefully, it's filled with a lot of sports and a lot of water. I think that's all we have to say. Kyle, any other closing comments?
Closing comments from me. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back on probably Friday or Saturday, considering Thursday's Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And happy holidays. Holiday season coming up. You'll hear more from us in our football episode later in the week.
All right. From the Water Boys, episode 2. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see y'all soon.